Hey guys, what's up? It's James Stewart. We're back for the recap, round number 6, the last stop of California. It said it never rains in Southern California. Well, it didn't rain this year. So, anyways, West Coast swing is done. We're about to go to the football stadium. Excuse me. We're at the baseball ones, and I felt like it was a lot of things that happened. Even though the racing was so, but there's a lot of interesting things that we'll get into and talk about it. So, let's talk about the night as a whole. Here in Anaheim, round 6, Monster Energy Supercross. Let's get it. Round 6 was interesting to me, and it wasn't necessarily with the racing. You had some stories of some guys struggling with bike setups. You had Anderson trying to get back on the flow of being the guy as a contender again. He was obviously fast the last few weekends, but had some mistakes. Obviously, you had ET just winning the last 2 races, dominating. Had Chase still up there, so I felt like the last stop of California is always a big one. You know, you want to take that momentum into the East Coast, and it's a lot less pressure on the East Coast. You don't have all the teams out there. You don't have the family. It's a little different now with guys being based in Florida, but still overall, all the teams are in California. So the last stop is a big one, and you try to get out there with some momentum. I thought Anderson looked great all day long. He was kind of the only person, him and Marvin, were the only people that were like really kind of aggressive. You know what I mean? Like they were attacking the track. They looked like they wanted to make a statement or try to win. Eli looked just as good as he has the last couple weekends, and even though he didn't win the race, I still thought he looked solid. My brother was still there, top 5. He looked good, but to me, the ones that I saw that jumped out to was obviously busting caps. Anderson, El Hambre, he looked great. He won the race. He might get something on the back of the neck. We'll see. We'll see what happens when we get there. ET, and then I thought Marvin looked really good again. And then there are some sub stories that are obviously really big with Ken. I saw a lot of odd things with him. He's in a position where I kind of said it last week. He's in a position that I've been in. A lot of riders have been in where it's no fun. It's no fun. I don't know if there's something going on with HRC and the Honda guys, but to me, that's a rider that's trying to make a statement because Ken's good, man. He's good. And to see him jumping through the whoops, there's obviously something that's struggling. And I don't believe it's Ken quitting because the guys, they work too hard. All these riders, they work way too hard to just roll over. But that being said, it's kind of like the NBA trade. Sometimes you got to make a little noise to get traded. So we'll see what happens. Yeah, Cooper Webb, even though he finished 8th, I actually saw more fight in him. I saw more of a, I wouldn't say effort, but there was a little bit more fight. He made a couple passes back. There's no secret. They're struggling with the bike. And I think it's interesting that it started with the Malcolm, and then it started with with Cooper. Well, maybe it started with both of them. Who knows? And then now it was bleeding into the team. But the guy who actually jumps through the whoops, the French connection, the guy that you would actually think that jumps through the whoops was actually the best looking one in there. He was blitzing them, and he kind of looked good all day long. So I don't know what's going on. I think everybody has their own little deals. Like even though they ride on the same bike, all of them's different. So everybody has a little bit of different setup. To me, it just kind of looks like there's a confidence thing lacking in all of them. I can see a setup problem with that, but that being said, these guys are the best in the world at what they do, team included. So you would assume that they would figure it out. So, but nonetheless, the 2 guys that was up front blew everybody else's doors off, and I feel like in the championship they're 1 and 2. I thought with Eli, I thought his bike actually looked better than Jason's, all night. I thought Jason was attacking and just had a little bit more, he wanted to win. And I think I think he understood the momentum that Eli was having, and he wanted to kind of stop that. But overall, I thought Eli looked great. I thought his bike looked good. I thought he looked comfortable in the whoops. And the funny thing is, he said he made a mistake, and then in the whoops, and then he backed it down. But nonetheless, he was still right there. One mistake here and there, it could have been flipped. So everybody's been talking about the tracks and the whoops per se. To me, the only thing that I don't necessarily like on these tracks, and it kind of happened again this weekend, was the sand section. it just, when you put it into 90, it always funnels back into a one line situation. And this one, after this long rhythm section, it was cool jumping into it, but I feel like it should have been more like it was last weekend, having a option to, either go outside and be able to make a pass. I mean, even if you went outside right now, the guy that went inside had to make a mistake, and then you might have got him, but he would have just funneled in and cut you off. So the sand section has only been, the odd things. This track, the biggest thing was the start, with the switchback right there. I've never seen that. And I felt like if you were able to get a good start, get around that first corner and get through the whoop section, somewhat the race would almost be somewhat won right there. Or you can definitely lose it if you got caught up and the guys like Jason and Eli got up front. And then people have been talking about the whoops. The whoops have been a key point all year long. This was the biggest whoop section, probably the most difficult as far as everybody's struggling. And I would love this. That would have been my specialty right there. I would have got in there, got that neck all just, that would have been my deal. And that's why I thought when you look at a race, the guys that were struggling in the whoops are the guys that you just saw. There was a huge difference, like Cooper, he said he was struggling in the whoops. Ken, struggling in the whoops. Even Chase, struggling in the whoops. And the guys that were actually attacking, looked great. That's why I was surprised, even with Marvin, he looked good through the whoops, which is odd. His teammate looked bad. So that being said, Eli had the best looking bike through the whoops. Anderson was like, look, dude, this thing's going to swap. I don't care. I'm winning tonight. And that's what I saw. Dude, was hanging on side to side. You can read his number plates if you're standing in front of him. That ain't good. But he just held on and just got it done. And so I thought the whoops were good. And I think overall, if you made a smaller whoop section, would racing be closer? No. To be honest with you people, I hate to say it. I mean, if you put two barrels out there and let them race in a circle, you'll still have the same guys up there winning. It's not, the track might be technical where I think after maybe 7-8 laps, towards the end of the race, that's when you see your separation. That's when it would happen. Guys will start getting tired and, maybe struggling a little bit more through the whoops. But it ain't because they're just too big and from first practice to, it's the whoop sections or the ones that are winning. Anybody can go through whoops, they win the race. Put two barrels out there, go in a circle, you would have had Anderson and Eli winning this race anyway. So I think it's just more of bike setup comes in, and it really comes into play after halfway. And that's where you see, and that's when you see guys start struggling and saying, oh, this is what it is. And then you look at the lap times at the end, and as a fan, you're like, well, I mean, the whoops, they're saying they're struggling through the whoops. So obviously that's what's make the whoops smaller. These tracks are too tough. It ain't too tough. It's just some guys, like Jason said, F it. El Hambre said, I'm getting it done tonight. And some guys said, you know what? I'll live to fight another day like Eli. It is what it is. So it ain't the whoops. It's just more of maybe some pecajonas. I don't know. To me, I'd have just sent it through it. Probably why a few times you carted me off the track. Hey, but you know what? I did send it. The 7, send it. Sorry. Some guys are not willing to. Some guys are. So, yeah, nonetheless, keep the whoops the same. Good job, Dirtworks. Now, there was a key point in this race where I wasn't sure what Eli was going to do. I wasn't sure if he was going to try to sit back or make the pass on Jason. And, I think sometimes you, like I said before, you race in the track, but you're also racing your competition and where their strong suits are. Jason's strong throughout the whole race, and I felt like Eli sensed it. I sensed it from on the couch that he was going to have a fight. So I think Eli wanted to make that pass pretty early, which maybe, I guess if I was in a situation racing Jason, maybe I would have done the same thing. But I usually kind of like to wait for a little bit and then jump the guy. But Eli was trying to make it pretty quick, and Jason sensed that. And I think the thing with Eli has been in the past, if he makes a pass, if you make it back on him really quick, kind of throws his flow off. And Jason knew if he didn't get back around Eli and he let him go, it's probably going to be a hard time of actually trying to beat Eli that night. So Jason, as his racecraft, he saw that. He made it happen, and Eli sensed that too. And I think then Eli went into, all right, I feel pretty good through the whoops. He can sense that, his bike is working better as far as it looked like it was a lot easier for Eli to go through the whoops. I mean, leave him right here. He's just there. Bike goes side to side. No big deal. Jason was swapping a little bit more. So Eli was just going to sit back, I believe, and let for Jason make a mistake. Eli ended up making a mistake. And then Eli said, you know what, I'll just fight another day. So that little half a lap right there that was the race. So we talk about like a whoops. We talk about, 3 practices, a heat race, the opening ceremonies, the monster girls, all this stuff. And the race came down within about 30 seconds. That was your whole race right there. So it was good. It was good. It was interesting as a fan, as an ex-racer. I know that, but still, nonetheless, the guy got it done. Yeah, it was weird with the there's trends, right? Like there's fashion trends. There's guys moving to Florida. Everybody moves to Florida. They believe it's in the water. But I believe like when you have like a teammate or a certain brand that's struggling, you can see, okay, certain guys got a deal locked up, right? Like there's different mentalities. Like you got one guy that's maybe a champion or supposed to be the guy, and if he's struggling, and then you see his teammate on the same bike, but they look better. And I guess my point is, with these trends on there, you see guys in certain situations, like for instance, like Marvin. I believe Marvin's in a must show state. Like this year, I think he has to show that he still has it. He still can go out there and win. So, all right, you take that. He looked great tonight. He should have been third. I mean, he actually kept these guys honest, and he fell over. He got caught up with a lapper. And then you see the flip side. Cooper just won the title. Supposed to be the guy that's coming in at this year, and he's back in 8th, jumping through the whoops. Cooper's always, nonetheless, been better through the whoops, especially blitzing, than Marvin. He's obviously a 2-time champion. But Marvin looked good. His bike looked completely different. And to me, that's just more of a mentality thing. Marvin's out there racing to like say, look, I'm happy to be on this team. I should be on this team. Where maybe a different circumstance, another guy's saying like, look, this team is actually what's holding me back. I don't want to be on here. And so as I say, trends, you kind of notice those are the only differences like between the two, more mindsets than anything. Because once one guy struggles on the team with a bike setup, then it just always seems easy for the other guy to be like, well, I'm struggling too. Like he can't go through the whoops. I can't go through the whoops. Like we teammates. And I say that, and maybe I'm wrong, but I say that because I did it before. I did it. I think it was the year of Blake Baggett. We were struggling through the whoops. And I was like, dude, okay, like I'm struggling through the whoops too. Come to find out, we really were struggling through the whoops. Like there was actually a problem through it. But my case in point to all this is that the guys that with these teams, it's a trend, man. It's a trend. Like if Malcolm's struggling through the whoops, then you got Cooper. And if Eli's struggling through the whoops, then you got Dylan and all that. And eventually they'll all figure it out. But I think it's more mindset at this point. Some of these guys just got to step up and get stuff done. And to me, Marvin was the guy that night. Marvin and Malcolm was those guys that actually just kept going and said, forget it. I'll outride this. And again, even though I said earlier, Cooper looked like he had more fight in me, he also looked like when the thing kicked out sideways and things went a little haywire, he fell back on like, look, the bike's not good. Everybody know it's not good. I need to figure out my situation and move on. So yeah, with Roxon, man, I felt bad because as a racer, I've been there and it's hard. It's hard. And I guess what I'm saying is like, he was behind, McElrath right here. And not to say McElrath's not a good rider, but we all know Roxon, remember, he won 8-1 by 10 seconds. He was up there in Oakland and went down. I've never, ever seen Ken jump through the whoops unless he's on the last lap winning and he's going to jump through the whoops. I think there's a lot of little moments that happen in the race. Like maybe, the heat race was so, and he's like, all right, you know what? I'm going to come out here. We get a good start. And then he ends up going down in the first corner, running in the hay bale. And it's the worst because you don't really fall. You just get caught up on the hay ball. Right then, his night was over, and you can see it in his riding. He's probably riding like 50% right now. I mean, he's just doing his thing. All right, let me go. I'm just gonna jump through these whoops. To me, I mean, even that he couldn't even jump through the whoops. That's a rider making a point. And as I said before, this ain't a knock on anybody. It's just being in this chair. I've actually been there too, and been in circumstances where sometimes like you just know, like, look, it's not doing anybody any good. Like I'm fighting, I'm struggling, and then once you get that in your mind that it's this, it doesn't go away. It doesn't go away until some big change. They would literally have to change suspension companies. Like it would have to be a big change to me to fix that. What I'm seeing right now, and that's unfortunate because the guy's so good, and you put all this work the team does in the off season just to end up like this. And I know no matter how bad the bike is, it's never that bad. Like on there, it's not that bad. Ken's that good. The teams are that good. And I felt like he was in a situation where there's more to it than just actually racing at this point. And hopefully he figures that out and, get back to the guy that I love watch racing, a guy that we all like watching, and I can call some German chocolate, you know what I mean? Like I want to get back up there with him. So yeah, that's just tough for him. It's tough for everybody. And, he'll figure it out. On there, that's Marvin getting French piqué by like a freaking lapper. That's the worst, dude. You're like, But look, dude, he gets up. Chase tries to go in there and like boom him out the way. Marvin's like, hell nah, dude. Like, he thought about it. He was like, nah, I'm gonna chill out. But yeah, lapper struggling through the whoops. Struggling through the sand. That's why I don't like sand sections. That's why I don't like that. Chiz back there trying to get it done. But Marvin gets up and he fights. He's blitzing the whoop still. It almost looked like the more these guys were hesitant going in there, like the worse their bike was. And it was kind of like my bike. Guys would get on it, like my mechanic, he would get on it and he'd be riding it through the pits. You better keep both hands on the handlebars because you hit a bump, the thing's like, yeah. Like if I rode my bike just slowly around the track, like kind of even like what Ken or some of these guys, not slowly, I take that back. If I didn't ride it like I was racing it, the bike was horrible. So if I thought the bike was bad, it got really bad, like when I wasn't attacking through. And that's because like these bikes are set up to race. So when you start being hesitant on certain things, like it makes it look way worse. And that's why I think like sometimes there's more to it than just going out there and racing. Cause we all know that, like, look, you got a stiff bike. It ain't meant to jump through the whoops. It ain't meant to just roll around on a parade lap. It's meant to attack these things. So when you see Ken and see some of these guys like jumping through the whoops and all of a sudden they're going like, yeah, like doing that, that's because their bike's not set up to do that. And if it was, then they would be jumping through the whoops all the time. So, and that being said, it makes it look way worse than what it actually is. So the more they're hesitant in it, the worse their whole situation is. And they know that. And again, from a fan's point of view, that's why you look at some of these guys and when they start slowing down at the end of the race, they look like, dude, they can't, their bike's all over the place. They're starting to get a little tired. It's just because the bike's not set up for that pace. And, if you just keep attacking, usually it's your better scenario. So that being said, you can always end up on a tough block. You can always end up in the asterisk medic with Doc Bodner or Eddie going, hey man, you all right? You all right? Yeah. You're like, yeah. That could always happen. But nonetheless, your chances are better just keeping the thing attacked. At least you look better. When I watched Cooper's bike, and it was the same thing with Malcolm's a couple of weeks ago, and I just told those guys, I'm like, look, from the little bit I just see, and the rebound on the front's way too slow. And what's happening is like as soon as they get into the whoops, like if you look at Cooper when they try to blitz it, and even sometimes, with Malcolm, it's like they're already screwed up once they get into the whoops. And usually with a bike setup, if it's more of the rebound on the rear, things start happening. It goes side to side, towards the end, where those guys are struggling right in the beginning part of whoops. And there was a part right after the finish line, if you go back to it, they jump the finish line, and there's these 4 little humps, and they go, and basically what you see is Cooper's front end stays down, the rear end comes up. Like that to me right there, like all the KTMs And even the Huskies, they struggle big time right there, where you see like Eli and Jason, like their bikes stayed more even. It was almost like Cooper hit that point and nothing happened with the front end. His back end reacted. He comes down right here. Look, yeah, it doesn't even, it just goes right through. And so that's the same thing that was happening in the whoops. Like they would get into it, he would start blitzing it. In the first two whoops, he would already be diving in the front, and he would be basically bulldozing in the front end in those whoops. So that you can't race that way. And I feel like that's not even good for jumping through the whoops, because one, if they get too far on the front, then the thing blows through again and the rear comes up. If they stay too far on the back, then you're always yanking, and that translates all the way through the track. It's not just the whoops, it's entering the corners. You start having this oversteer in the corners where the front end's stuck down, going through the rhythm sections. The front, you're pulling the front end up. So to me, like when we a couple weeks ago with Malcolm, he was having the same issue, and it brought it up, and they did that. So when they said they were working on the bikes, like I can see that's a direction that they maybe start trying to do. Maybe there's something else going on, but to me, like that's an issue that affects them all the way around the track, and it's the front end, the rebound's way too slow on that thing. As you're watching, if you're watching Jason and Eli going in here, like when they get in, Jason's heads over to the middle part of the bike. Well, I guess heads over the front end. Eli, they're both in the same position. Like if the front end dives, they just move back a little bit. The front end recovers, it goes through. If you watch Marvin, it looks like Marvin's hitting a whoop, front end's diving, hitting a whoop, front end's diving, and he's always trying to like pull that thing back up. And that's why I go back to like there's something happening with the front end that's making these guys feel like they're plowed. There you go. It's going in, down, up, down, and especially towards the end of the whoops for him, because his entry speed was allowing him to almost kind of blow through the first few whoops to where it wasn't as bad, where Cooper and some of the other guys, they wasn't going in with so much momentum as Marvin. And the thing that was happening, Marvin, about 5-6 whoops into it, was happening to Cooper and those guys the first couple whoops. So, and that was just a speed separation between those two. But you can see it happening to Marvin at the end, like where Jason and Eli, they just move back and they can keep their momentum up. Where Marvin, halfway through it, he's pulling up and he's like pulling up, and there's just the front end's not recovering. And the more I think about it, actually, it might be more than just suspension. And the thing with KTM, like, I mean, they created a new bike, right? Like, and, you know, they had people thought of KTMs as a trials bike, really. And then they created this whole new bike. So to me, the fact is, like, I'm watching and I'm like, yeah, it's the rebound, man. Like, you need to fix that. It tells me that there's probably something else that's going on in there. It might be the front part of the frame. It might be, clamp, something. But for sure, the rebound, speeding that thing up on the front would help that. And it's obviously helped a little bit, because if it was the same bike as a few weeks ago, it would have been really bad. But nonetheless, they're struggling in the front end. So the more they committed through it, the better they look more like Marvin. But obviously that was a thing that you had to feel comfortable doing. And to know that, it's kind of like a speed bump. You know, you would think, they say slow down, but when you slow down, you go, boom. You speed up, the thing's it's done. But there's obviously risk with that. You know, you might hit a lady in the car, who knows? But my theory, when in doubt, gas it. So I think they'll figure it out. The bike's obviously gotten better since a couple weeks ago, and they're gonna have to. Otherwise, they're gonna be in 5th, 6th place like the rest of the year, because that's a position that they're actually struggling in for sure. The reason Jason started struggling at the end of the whoops, end of the race, one, they were just getting more cuffed out, and two, they got really slippery. So with him diving in there, that's just more of the tires wearing out, the track getting super slippery, and he's like struggling in there. But still, he's not plowing through the whoops like those other guys. The way he looks at the end of the whoops is like Cooper them looked at the beginning part, and that sucks. And like I said, it's not just the whoops; it's everywhere. It affects you everywhere. It makes it where you can't turn. And you would think a front end being lower, like it would help you turn, but you get that oversteering like Cooper just had, like right there. A lot of little things happen from a suspension setup that you don't necessarily see unless you start paying attention after here, that part, the struggling. Watch him struggle in the corners. It affects him everywhere. So that's why I thought like Cooper, he actually had more fight into him at the last race at round 6, but he still struggled with those same issues, and those things came out, and they came out big time. So I think Cooper would have been all right if the track had more traction into it and he was able to ride a certain pace where he wasn't pushing it. But the guys up front, like busting caps, Anderson, Alhambre, E.T., and the guys in front of him, they were on a mission, and he literally couldn't keep up with that speed without making mistakes and putting himself in there. So anyways, let's do it, man. Y'all know what time it is. Round 6, man, he did it, my boy. He won the race already in Oakland. He was busting caps, blowing bombs in people, but he got it done. Shirt untucked. Maybe if he had a 7 shirt on, maybe it would have. Nah, just kidding. He looked good. He looked good all day long. He was the guy that I said, like, would give Eli a fight in this championship. Well, he did. And you know what he did, people. Jason Anderson, you the man. Congratulations, neck burn. Hit it, Cole.
Suntan, neck's on fire.
Damn, that neck on fire. El Hambre. You look good, bud. Congratulations. E.T., good ride. Justin Barshall, nice to see Bam Bam back on the podium. My brother, another top 5 on there. He's looking good. Roger might have been right. I might be wrong with my pits. He might end up 3rd, but nonetheless, what a great night of racing. It was boring, but it was interesting as a fan. I saw a lot of things that it was cool. So look at Jason Anderson. Looking forward to going to Minneapolis next week and go indoors for a while until they get to Daytona. So, Dunlock ain't gonna be pumped about that, burning out that bike anyways. But anyways, you the man, Jason. Congratulations. And Cole, are we gonna do the stews of the week?
Oh, we are.
We have to. All right, coming up. Y'all know what time it is. My favorite part. Let's get it. Stews of the week and be stewed. Probably one stew. All right, we'll get into it. I'll figure it out as we go, because that's how we roll over here. Of course, first stew, we got to go. Jason Anderson. El Hambre. Why? I mean, isn't it simple? Dude, he was non-violent today. Like, he should just get a stew for that. He was cool. Looked smooth on there, like flapping, foot flying off, shirt untucked. He looked great, man. He took it to the E.T., the guy with the red plate. He said, "Not today, baby, not today." And Eli knew. I sensed it. I felt like if Eli would have got in, Jason, when he made that pass, he was like, "You see this 9 right here? You see this?" And Eli's like, "Whoa, man. Whoa, I'm from Colorado, man. Like, we just going to chill. We're going to chill. I'll wait for next week." And that's what happened. So, Jason Anderson, number 1 stew of the week. I'm going to give a different one. We might only give 2 out. The second one, I got to give it up to Dirtworks, man. I got to give it up to Dirtworks. They had these boys, like, crying. Crying. They used to have me crying sometimes, but the track, it was interesting. They had a whoop section. Like Matt Walker said, that's a man's track right there on there. And that was a man's set of whoops. So Dirtworks, you're going to get one. And the next one, I'm going to give it out to the rest of y'all because y'all finished. Whether you ended up 8th, 4th, 6th, 3rd, whatever, anybody outside of Jason, you finished. We got out of the West Coast, all the fans in California, all the Bubba's World fans, all y'all, we all get stews. I'm going to give myself a stew. So the third one, all of us, we're going to get stews because we finished the West Coast round. We're going to the East Coast, and that's when it's really going to start. So Jason Anderson, Dirtworks, that's a man's track. And all of us, give us a hug. Oh, thank you. All right, this one's it kind of makes me sad. And normally I'm happy for this stew. Because, I wouldn't say happy. I'm stewed too, because I was in my own stew. But I'm going to give it to first one, and maybe the only one is, I'm going to double it. Ken Roczen, Cooper Webb, KTM, and Honda. You guys are seeing the Blue Crew, the Team Green thumbs up, Monster Kawasaki. They look good. And it's been a while since I've said, like, damn, like, that whole bike package and that rider, they don't really have a chance the way it looks. So if I was those guys, I'd be stewed. Like I would just be stewed because we know we got work to do. But guess what? You guys gonna do it. You guys gonna do it because you got the champ. You got Mookie Fever. You got Ken Roxon, the German chocolate. You got Sexy Sexton. Like, y'all gonna get it done. But I hate to say it, I'm sure after Saturday night, y'all was pretty stewed. Like, I was stewed watching it because I felt bad. So there it is. Stews of the week. There's Eli Tomac. Nah, Eli didn't even get it. He was afraid of Jason. That's right. I'm going to put his ass on the stew because he saw that gun pop out with Jason. He was like, baby got diapers. Little Johnny needs daddy. So he's like, I ain't going to get on there. So anyway, that was it. I hope you guys enjoyed the West Coast. That was fun. I appreciate you listening to me. And again, if you want to listen to more, go back to the podcast from last week on Bubba's World. Make sure you click it right here. Otherwise, I'll see you guys next week on the recap from Minneapolis, round number 7. Take it away, Cole.
Suntan.
I don't know. You
I know.
never thrown it to me.
I never thrown it, but it was like, hey, let me see if he's on it right now. So
No.
anyways, that's it. I'll see you guys next week. I'm done.